Let's create some pose assets to save some time while animating. I will be using Blender 4.0 and also I will be using the BPS Trick version 4. The link will be in the description. By the way, I'm in the solid view and I have this outline and specular lighting turned off, and I went from material to texture so that I can see my character. Now make sure to use the rig which you are going to use in the future, because when we are setting up our pose library and pose assets, this will be compatible to the rig we are using. If you try to apply the poses in the future to different rigs, then it might not work, as they might have different bone names and so on. So be sure to use the rig which you are planning to use in the upcoming months or even years. Now let's begin. First thing we need to do is go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and make sure we have the pose library enabled. It should be enabled by default, but still check it and make sure that it's enabled. Now turn the preferences off, and now we need to set up our layout. So I'm in the layout, aka the default view. So if I hover my mouse over on this edge of the timeline, I can left click and then drag this up. Also, I'm quickly going to turn off my screencast keys just in case, so you can see what I'm clicking. And now over here, if I come down on this corner, I'm going to have this plus icon created. So make sure to go in the corner, left click, drag it up, and then now we have our second timeline created. So first thing we need to do is change this first timeline to the dope sheet and then the action editor. And then here we're going to open our asset library. So click on this icon, which is this clock icon, which means that we're in the timeline. Left click this and then go to the dope sheet above the timeline. And now over here where it says dope sheet, click this and change this to action editor. And now we're in the action editor. We can expand this menu if you want. Now go down here and then select this and then go all the way to the right side. And then we can see this asset browser, and we can switch it with F1 if you want. It's a shortcut. So click on the asset browser and now we're going to see the asset browser. These are the default Blender assets, and these three are the ones I created, just testing this out. So you're not going to have these, but you're going to have everything else here. Now, what we need to do in the asset browser is click on all, and then change this to current file. And now if we change this to current file, we won't see anything here. So let's learn how to create the pose assets. I'm going to show you 3 body assets. I'm going to show you how to create 3 facial expressions, and then you can continue using the same principles. So let's go to pose mode of our character. So I'm going to click on Control Tab. That's a shortcut for pose mode. And now let's first start with the body. So let's say I want to create a quick pose of our character folding the arms. Basically character standing like this, which is actually considered an introverted pose. I don't know why. But let's create this folding arms, and then I'm also slightly gonna rotate the body, animate the legs as well. And by the way, I don't have the auto keyframe turned on because we don't need this. And I'm gonna pull the legs apart like this. G, middle mouse scroll wheel, or GX. And then let's create a basic pose. Maybe rotate the head slightly as well, as if the character is listening to someone. This looks more like a villager. So I'm going to try to make it look more human. And now that we have our pose set, we can select all the bones which we just moved. So we moved our arms, we moved the head as well, and we moved the legs. We don't need to select the facial expressions in this case because we're working on the body. And we're going to select the body parts as well. So select the pelvis, torso, and hip bones as well. And now if you want to create a new asset, what we can do is hover over the action editor and then click on N to bring out the side panel. And then what I can do now is click on Create Pose Asset. And then this will create a new pose asset, and we can see the preview here. But this is hard to see. So what we need to do is place the camera in front of our character. So if you don't have a camera in the scene, you can go out of the pose mode, click on Control Tab, then Shift A, and then create a camera here. But I already have a camera created, so I'm going to click on numpad 0, or I can actually click on this icon, this camera icon, and I can enter the camera view like this. So again, numpad 0, I'm going to use Shift F to move the camera in front of my character. And if you don't have a Shift F enabled, or you have trouble using the Shift F method, then you can click on N on the viewport to bring out the side panel, and then go under View, and then check Lock Camera to View. If I check Lock Camera to View, and I click on middle mouse, or I can click on Shift, then I'm going to move around with the camera like I would move around in the viewport. So you can use this method as well. I'm going to uncheck this because I'm not using this. So let's place the camera in front of the character. And another thing I want to do is change the camera to a square format. So I'm going to go to the output properties and then change this to 512 to 512. So if I left click and drag this down, I can change both values to 512, or you can choose any other resolution. I just want to keep a low resolution and a square resolution. So again, Shift F, place my camera in front of the character, and again go to pose mode, and we already have our bones selected. If I entered my pose mode back, the bones which I selected will be saved. And another thing I can do is, when I clicked on create pose asset, we created this, and then we created this as well. It says BPS character rig, but we want to change this to keep this organized. So left click and then change this to something like body underscore folding arms, because I believe this pose is called folding arms or something. I don't know. That's what I remember from my English class anyways. So another thing I can do is, if I want to change the preview, if I want to keep the preview like this instead of from far away, I can hover over the asset browser, click on N. This will bring out the sidebar, and if I scroll down, I can see the preview here. And since we have our camera in front of the character already, I can click on this recycle button, and then this will reset the position. But another cool thing we can do is, if we don't want to, in the future, if we don't want to see this white icon, and if we want to see the entire face with the colors and textures, then we can basically turn off the overlays, and we can adjust the camera if we want again. And after we adjusted the camera, we can go to view and go all the way down, and you can see viewport render image. If I click on viewport render image, this will give me a rendered image. And after rendering the image, I can click on image, save as, and then I can save the image in the folder which I want. So I'm going to save this in the pose library folder and name this pose assets. I'm going to go inside this folder and name this the same thing we named, body underscore folding arms, just to keep things organized. So I'm going to save the image as. I'm going to click on escape to go out of the render view. And then what I can do now is, above the recycle button, we can see this folder icon. If I click on this, I can find my picture and then go to my folder, pose assets, and select body folding arms. And as you can see, we just created the preview of the body folding arms. And if we double click on this in the future, this will set up the pose with 2 clicks basically. Now let's continue and create other poses. So before you move on and create another pose, first thing you need to do is click on this X button. So just turn off this action. And then we can click on Alt R and then Alt G to reset the position of the character. And let's create a new pose. For example, I want my character to be standing like this. I don't know what this pose is called, but I think you get the idea. So I'm going to rotate the arms like this. And I just created this basic pose. And again, select all the bones which we just changed. We changed the head. So I'm going to shift select the head, both arms and hands. Select the legs as well. Make sure all the bones are selected. We need to select the body as well. I'm just using shift and left click. And again, once we selected the pose, once we click the X here, and once we change the character's pose, I can again go down here and then click on create pose asset. And then this just created a new pose asset. Go to my camera view again. I can turn off the overlays from here, so we don't see any bones. So turn off the overlays here, click on view, and then viewport render image. Now save this image again and do the same thing we did before. Image, save as. I'm gonna name this body underscore listening. Save as image. And then another thing we need to do, I forgot to do this. First change the name from here and then mess around with the image and so on. So click this and then change this to body underscore listening. And then again, click on this folder icon and then select the body listening. Or if you don't want to read the text, you can click on this and then you're going to see the thumbnails from here. So click this and then we just created a preview for this. Now again, let's create another pose and then we're going to move on to the facial expressions. Let's create another pose so that you remember the steps. So again, click on X, turn this off, Alt R, Alt G to reset the position of the character. And now let's create a waving pose. For example, our character is waving to someone as if saying hello. Again, rotate this. And once you're happy with the pose, again, select all the bones which you want to create an asset for. So shift select the hands, shift select the head, the body, and the legs as well. Go inside the camera view and again, create a pose asset. Rename this to body underscore waving. Let's turn off the overlays again. View, viewport render image. Expand this image, save as. save it inside your folder, name this body underscore waving, save as image, click on escape to go out of the rendered view, rendered image view, and then click on this folder icon, and then again changes to body waving. And you can see we just created 3 body movements, but you can create as many body movements as you want. If you want like a jumping position, waving position, listening, running, anything, you can create any poses here, and then you can apply them in the future. Now let's exercise and let's create the facial expressions as well. So again, click on X here, turn on the overlays again so we can see our bones, Alt R, Alt G. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take my camera. I don't need to select it. I'm gonna go to Shift F and then move it in front of the face like this. And then let's mess around with the facial expressions. So let's make a character angry, for example, and I want to create an angry pose library. I want to create an angry pose asset. So I'm gonna select this bone, which controls the eyebrows. I'm gonna click on R and then rotate it like this. I'm gonna do the same thing for the eyes as well. This controls the movement of the eyes. So R and then move this down. I'm gonna select this mouse controller, make the mouth like wider. And then I can also click on R and then rotate this down as if the character is angry. And then I'm gonna select this, maybe move it down slightly. Click on S. I use G to move this down, and then S to scale it up like this. Maybe rotate this mouth slightly. R, rotate it like this. And let's just polish up the pose. And once you want to save the pose, I can go out of my camera view and then click on B, and then box select the entire face, like this. Now, I don't need to animate the head, so I'm going to shift and then left click on the head, and then shift and left click on the head again to deselect the head. And now I only select my facial bones. And don't do this because you're going to have nightmares. But let's continue. Now that we have selected the facial bones, we're going to go through the same steps basically. So again, go inside the camera view and then click on create pose asset. And then we created a new pose asset for the face. And then let's rename this face underscore angry. Enter, and then turn off the overlays, go to view, and then under here click on viewport render image, expand this image, save as, save this in the same folder, name this face underscore angry, save as image, escape, go out of this view, and then go down here under the asset browser, click on this folder icon, and then change this to face angry. And now we just created a thumbnail. So before we continue to other facial expressions, I'm going to show you how these work basically. I should have shown you this earlier, but if I go out of my camera view, right, and then I bring back the overlays right here, I can select my body parts. So I'm going to select both arms, select the whole body, and select the legs as well. So let's say I want my character to suddenly start waving. Instead of manually setting up everything, I can go down to my asset browser and then double click on body waving, and then you can see it applied the pose. Now obviously we didn't change the face, we're going to do this later, and this is like an angry waving, but you get the idea. If I want to change the character to listening to someone, I can double click on this, body listening, and then you can see that my character is basically standing angrily. And then again, I can double click on this body folding arms, and my character is folding arms. So this is basically super useful if you want to quickly change the character's poses while you're animating. And I can do the same thing for face. I can select, I can create other facial expressions, select the facial bones only, and then double click on this. Now, another cool thing you can do is if you don't want to apply the entire pose, let's say I want to apply the listening pose, but not the entirely, I can right click and then click on blend pose. And then if I drag my mouse right or left, I can apply either 0%, 50, 70, or how many percent I want. So let's say I want to apply only like 70%. It's going to apply only 70 or 71% of the pose, like this. So it's not going to apply the entire pose. So this is very cool if you want to basically blend or switch between the poses. I can do the same thing here. Right click, blend pose, and then blend the pose here like this. So this is a very cool thing, and it's going to save a lot of time in the future. So again, if I break out my overlays, I can go to angry, curious, happy, with like basically 2 clicks. I'm just double clicking, or I can basically right click, blend pose, and then blend between the poses. I can, for example, right click, select the blend pose for the happy face, and then move it like this from angry all the way here. You can apply 0%, 100%, or how many percent you want. Let's apply, for example, like 55%, like this. Again, click on angry, blend pose, 30% to make the character 30% angry. So you can jump around the poses. This is basically me before getting my morning coffee, and this is me after getting my morning coffee. Ha 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 ha. So you can see how easy it is. Now, the last thing we need to do is, if we close this, we're not going to save the poses and all of our work is going to be lost. So I'm going to show you how you can save the poses so that you can use them for the future. So I'm going to go out of pose mode, and first thing you need to do is go to edit, preferences, and then go to file paths under here, and then under the user library you can copy this. So I'm going to click on this path and then Control C and copy the path. Now once you copy the path, close the preferences and then go to file, save as, and then insert the file path over here. So I'm going to click this, Control V, and then left click somewhere over here, and I created a new path. As you can see, I already have created a folder because I was practicing, but I'm going to click on this and click on delete. So I'm going to create a new folder and then name this poses, and then click here, double click, and then create and name this something like poses, or you can name pose library or anything you want. So save as, and I just saved my file as poses. Now let's create a new Blender file and see how we can import these. So a shortcut to create a new Blender file is Control N, and I can click on general, or you can click on this file new and create a general. But I'm going to click on Control N, general, and then I'm create a new general file. So let's delete the default cube as always. Let's delete this point light as well, and let's extend this menu and basically do the same thing we did before. So extend this and click on this plus icon over here, extend this, turn this into the dope sheet and action editor, and then turn this into the asset browser. And then if I file append, I can append my BPS character rig. So let's append your character as well, file append. And then I just appended my character. Let's go to the texture, turn off the outline and specular lighting. And if I extend this asset browser, I can click on all and then click on user library. In my case, it's named user library. And then you can see we have all of our poses here. So if we have, for example, a new Blender file and I'm animating, I can quickly select my character's body parts. And if I want my character to be waving, select all the body parts and then double click on body waving. And as you can see, it's pretty easy. Again, you can do the same thing for the facial expressions as well. You can make a character happy and waving at someone. You can make the character curious, it's like, who am I waving at? Or make angry, it's like, yeah, I'm waving at you, but I'm also angry at you. Or you can do whatever you want, basically. So this is how you create pose assets. As you can see, it's not hard. And you can create as many assets as you want. So basically, have fun with it, use the same principles. And if you have any questions, leave it down in the comments. Also, if you think I missed something, if you have any criticism, then please leave that in the comments as well, because I want to learn as well. Maybe I missed something, maybe there's an easier method to do things. So if you have any suggestions, then be sure to leave them in the comments down below. So that's gonna do it for this video. Smashing the like button will be highly appreciated. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more weekly Minecraft animation tutorials using Blender. I upload once or twice per week. And if you want to see how to make the run cycles in Blender, then be sure to check out this video and I will see you there. Thank you for watching.